1999, audiences around the world fell in love with the animated star of E.B. White's classic tales. Not surprisingly, fans of The Good-Hearted Mouse weren't just children.
I'm an adult fan of Stuart Little, as is everybody in my family, actually. That's why I was pleased to be asked to do Stuart Little, too, because it's easy to do it on a film if it's the sequel to a film you really loved, because I loved the first one. I just thought it was so ingenious and clever.
Originality was such a
kind of cheat if you're looking around like that. You can build sets, but once you start looking up, skyscraper's a skyscraper. You've got to do the thing properly. Right.
This movie goes to a lot of different locations in New York. Just in terms of the action and the size and the scope of the movie, it's a lot bigger.
There's a significant more difficulty involved in the planning of all the visual effects shots because we had to find a way to basically obtain the photography for the flying sequences.
The spider cam system we're using is just amazing. We have camera rigs off of buildings in Central Park that go all the way across Central Park, 50 stories high, to cranes out in the middle of the park. Just amazing. We're going to get some of the most breathtaking shots. Trump Tower is 55 stories. We actually have cranes that go over the edge and drop cameras down. There's a gentleman, his name's Earl Wiggins.
Action movie star that I've ever met, because he requires several hundred people working almost 2 years in order to bring him to his full, delicious self.
We had 35 to 40 animators just animating Stuart. We had 10 artists just doing cloth. We have another 3 or 4 specialists in just feathers. We have almost 40 people lighting Stuart. This movie, Stuart Little 2's technical scope was 10 to 20 times more difficult than the first ones. When you shoot a live action picture, most normal pictures, you go out there with the camera and the actors and lights and you shoot it and then you cut it together and you show it. But when you have so many special effects and so many characters that are created digitally, it really is.
A digital skateboard, because you have to lock the popcorn into his hand, and then you can move his hand and the popcorn will move with it. I'll go to animation support and I'll say, I want him to take a bite of this popcorn, and they will go through and figure out, okay, it needs to be able to be locked to his hand, to move off of his hand, and to animate in between the bite. They will set all that up, thankfully, and explain it to me so that I can animate it in the shot. This sequence is called the ED sequence, the evening date. It's probably the sequence I'm most proud of overall, that I got to lead on the film. Ana Alvarez was doing Margalo, and I was doing Stuart. That was pretty rare in reality when it was actually filmed through a camera's lens.
This is one of the more complex effect shots. There's a lot of elements that go into making this final product here. This is the original background image. It's just Margalo. This is one pass. There's several different passes of Margalo to get specular highlights and sort of the sheen and the wet look. This is like the specular highlights as the water ripples out from Margalo and the drops in it. This is Margalo's reflection on the surface of the water. Here's one of the passes used for the drops that she shakes off her body. The water itself has 10 layers, 3 more for the drops. The Falcon comes in and changes the water lighting, changes the drops lighting. So it's like a lot of interaction.
Did you really think I wouldn't find out?
What are you talking about?
I'm talking about you and your little mouse friend.
The Falcon has very unique patterns on all of his feathers. Every one of his feathers has some sort of pattern, whether it's a teardrop shape or a little stripe across it. 40 or so different patterns that we could apply to the Falcon. We created a pattern map, which was a texture map that went over the surface of the bird, and it would basically outline the different areas of the bird that had the different kinds of feathers. In this film, Stuart gets a digital airplane
they had a prop airplane to start with, and ultimately they replaced the prop airplane for a lot of the shots with a digital version of the airplane. And then later on in the film, he repairs it, and from that point on in the film, it's an entirely digital airplane.
The airplane itself has a lot of character. You can see the wing wobbling, pieces wiggling off the side here. Even the wing is shuddering. There were dozens of controls on the plane to cause it to shake. As far as the flight characteristics of the airplane, we had an animator working on Stuart who was an ex-Israeli Air Force pilot. His name was Yair Cantor, and he went around and told us all about ailerons, elevators, and rudders. When the animator finishes with the scene, this is what you look at during dailies. In computer animation, there's a tremendous jump between what the animator does and then when the digital department finishes. I just saw this middle scene for the first time today. I was just amazed. Even when the claws come through the wing, the digital department, the little pieces flying out.
One is a wide shot of New York City, of the harbor, and another one is this foreground of the barge, which was actually shot on a stage with a motion-controlled camera. There's the plane itself. Another stage is deformation.